welcome on into the Wolverine.com podcast. Clayton Safey here with Chris Ballas and Anthony Broom on Thursday, October 24th. We'll preview Michigan against Michigan State Saturday night at the Big House. Before we get into it, though, make sure to like the video if you're watching on our YouTube channel, that thumbs up button. Let's get to 300 likes. We're also inching towards 30,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And as always, head to the Wolverine.com. You can use the promo code UM1 for 2 months of premium access for just $1. So you can join us on our message board, get behind the paywall on all of the articles for 2 months through the regular season for just $1, 50 cents a month. Fantastic deal right now over at thewolverine.com. But Michigan heading into game 8 against Michigan State, leading the all-time series against the Spartans 73-38. With 5 ties, they've won 28 of the last 45. They've won the last 2 by a combined score of 78-7. Some fun times in this rivalry out of the last 2 seasons for Michigan. It's the first time, though, since 1928 that both teams entered this game with 3 or more losses. That's why you're not hearing as much about this game, even in the state this year, heading into this one. It's usually a big game for one of the 2 teams, whether it's Michigan the last couple of years, reaching the college football playoff, needing to kind of check that box before getting to, the Big Ten championship, things like that, bigger goals ahead. In 2021, it was big for both teams. This year, it's big because you just want to win and beat your in-state rival, but there aren't those bigger goals in play this year, which is losing a little bit of luster.
Yeah, if we're being honest, it's not usually a big game for Michigan State because they, other than the Mark D'Antonio era in our existence, they haven't been a whole lot. They haven't done a whole lot. So, but anytime they have smell blood in the water and they feel like they have a chance to beat Michigan, it's a big deal. And I think they do. I think a lot of them are regretting giving back that ticket allotment that they gave back in the end zone. And now they're scrambling to find tickets. Thinking they're going to come up here and beat this Michigan team that is clearly dysfunctional. And this is the kind of team that Michigan State beats when they beat Michigan, usually, with the exception of 2021, which was, couple things had to happen and a couple calls and a couple of mishaps on defense. They caught them. They went hurry up and they caught them. You got to hope that doesn't happen again this year. So, but yeah, this is just one of those get it over with games, right? And see what happens. I'm not confident. I think I picked Michigan to lose. We'll talk about that later, I'm sure. But to me, it's one of those things where you're going to have to, I guess, if you're a Michigan fan, listen to your Sparty buddies or whatever, or your family members crow for a year if you lose. Other than that, not a whole lot more on the line.
Yeah, and this is a game too where I've always kind of pushed back against it's their Super Bowl because it's Michigan State's version of the Ohio State game. Like this is the game that they, that makes or breaks their season. If you find a way to win it, that's fuel. If you find a way to lose it, all you do is think about it for the next 364 days. So is it a rivalry to that level with historically that type of stakes? No, we've seen some big games, in recent memory, but Michigan State's going to come down to town this week expecting to win a football game. And spoiler alert, like I'm picking them to win this game. We'll talk about that later on in the show, but this has a chance to be, it's not a get right game for Michigan, but you can kind of take steps towards that if you just get back in the win column. I know morale is not super high there right now. They know they let 2 winnable games slip away, but this is one of those games that when they set their goals in the preseason, beat Michigan State, beat Ohio State, compete for a Big Ten title, make the college football playoff, win the national championship. Several of those are off the table now. So the one that's ahead of you is winning this trophy game, keeping, the Paul Bunyan trophy in Ann Arbor. And I think, right now you go by the trends and such. I think that Michigan's they're favored in this game. I don't feel as good about it as you would a couple weeks ago, but you got to go out there and play. And if you have any pride in this program, if you had any pride in, forget what's happened the last few weeks. You got the guys that wear that uniform now are representatives. And if you don't win this game, then that's a big mark against your legacy as a Michigan football player. And that includes, whether you've been here and won a national title won a Big Ten championship or not. So there's got to be a fire under these guys this week. This is a winnable game. This is a game that, when you look at the talent on both sides of the ball, you would think on paper, Michigan stacks up pretty favorably, but a lot of question marks, and we'll talk about them here.
We need to go back to podcasting school. Both of you guys just spoiled your picks in the first 5 minutes of the show. It's called a tease, guys. Come on. But we will do our predictions. We'll talk a little bit more, or a lot more, about this matchup going in. And you guys both mentioned it, but Michigan 3.5-point favorite. Over under is 40.5 at this point. Last time I checked, Michigan State, you're right, comes in on a much higher note, bouncing back. They had lost 3 games in a row before last week. They come off their bye, looked really impressive in a 32-20 win over Iowa. Michigan with the disappointing 21-7 loss to Illinois. 2 straight losses for the Wolverines, first time since 2020. Let's break down the Michigan offense, but before we do, we have to talk about our friends over at PrizePicks. It is the most fun way to enjoy watching sports with PrizePicks. You can win up to 100 times your money this football season, this basketball season as well. The NBA tipped off their season last night, 2 nights ago. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. It's a great way to test your skills as a fan. It's simple and easy to play. You can make your picks, submit them in less than 20 seconds. I got a couple plays for tonight. I'm taking Victor Wembanyama, more than 11.5 rebounds at the Dallas Mavericks. And I'm sticking with the trend. Every team that's played the Detroit Lions this year, the next week they've gotten blown out. I got Aaron Jones, Vikings running back, less than 72.5 rushing yards at the Los Angeles Rams. The Lions beat you twice this year. They're that good. We also have a special offer for you. If you want to play PrizePicks, go to prizepicks.com or the PrizePicks app. Use the code Wolverine to receive a guaranteed $50 once you play $5 in lineups. Again, go to prizepicks.com or the PrizePicks app. Use the code Wolverine to receive a guaranteed $50 once you play $5 in lineups. You don't even need to win your pick to get the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed as long as you use the promo code Wolverine. It's PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. The big storyline for both of these teams is avoiding turnovers. Who's going to do it better, or who's going to turn it over 2 times versus 3, or whatever it is, right? You may not avoid turnovers at a high level here, but whoever wins the turnover margin, good chance of winning this game. Both teams with 15 turnovers coming into the season. It's kind of the number one thing I think probably both coaching staffs will want to see out of their team is that they take care of the football in this game, because if you're Michigan State, the Michigan offense doesn't scare you that much unless you give it to them at the 35-yard line or something like that, and vice versa. I know Michigan State has better quarterback play and more playmakers, but the turnovers have plagued them a bunch as well.
Yeah, and I think Aiden Childs is getting better and going to continue to get better. He still had a turnover, I think, last game, and probably could have had some more against that Iowa defense, but they moved the ball. They moved the ball against a stout Iowa defense, and they're going to be saving some stuff for Michigan. I guarantee you that. This is a Michigan defense that hasn't been really disciplined all the time this year. So that would be a concern to me is, okay, maybe getting to the quarterback, but letting him escape. And then when this guy escapes, he's pretty dangerous. So this is a unique challenge. And if they make him throw the ball downfield, if they fluster him, I'd feel great if Jesse Minter were here, for example, mixing up defenses and guys knowing that they're going to be in position, knowing they're going to get him on the ground. I don't feel so great about this Michigan defense against Aiden Childs because they just haven't done enough of this, getting gang tackling and getting to the ball and getting guys on the ground. Too many missed tackles. So that's what but to me, yeah, the Michigan offense is number one. Donovan Edwards and those guys have to hang on to the ball too. Donovan has had a couple key fumbles this year. Kalel Mullings needs to be the guy this year that this game that needs to carry the ball, and they can run some play action off of that. They got to find some ways to get some receivers open here. It's been ridiculous what this receiving core has not been able to accomplish, and part of that too means protecting for whoever's playing quarterback on Saturday. So they got to have Miles Hinton back. He's not a world beater, but he's the best they have. I thought Andrew Gentry did a fine job at right tackle. And so, but yeah, I don't have a whole lot of hope that Michigan's going to put up a ton of points on a Michigan State defense that plays very well together and plays hard.
For me, one of the biggest storylines in this game is going to be the team, typically the team in this game that is a little more composed, that avoids those big penalties. That's a data point that usually goes in the favor of the winner. And when you look at this Michigan State team this year, they're tied for 94th in the country in fewest penalties per game, about a little over 7 per game. And for as undisciplined as we feel like Michigan has been at times this year, only 5 penalties per game. So, you're looking to avoid that big one that gives them, 15 yards when you feel like you've gotten off the field on third down. Some of the pre-snap stuff, which should improve for the offense, given that you're playing at home. It's going to be friendlier confines from that regard. For me, I think when I look at how does Michigan win this game, I think it starts with being what you are at your best, and that's running the football, getting downhill, extending drives, going on long drives, and finishing those drives with touchdowns. Again, I think that if this staff has been guilty of anything at times, I think they do go, especially the last few weeks. It seems like with Tuttle back there, they're trying to be a little more balanced, but be what you are. You look at last week's game, you come out with passes in 2 of your first 3 plays. That's not a path to success for this Michigan offense. So for me, it would be getting Khalil Mullings going early and getting him going often. Like, we shouldn't go a couple drives without seeing him have the football. A lot of people put that on Kirk Campbell. That's a Tony Alford thing too. People don't realize the position coaches more often than not determine who's out there on the field. So, and your offensive coordinator kind of probably has to put his foot down on that as well, in addition to the head coach. But for me, I think this is a Michigan State team that you can move the ball on a little bit, and they've played better than their personnel would suggest they should this year. I think that's good. That's good coaching on their part. For Michigan, it's just getting this thing settled down, running first, setting up everything else off that, and just kind of getting Jack Tuttle in these, favorable, or Jack Tuttle, whoever's at quarterback. I don't know. They've reopened this thing this week, but just getting those guys settled down to where you just, hey, we don't, you don't need to have these guys drinking out of a fire hose. Run what you're good at, run it until the other team stops it, and then you adjust from there.
I think it's a good point. My brother Mitch said this last night, is why don't they just run the Alex Orji offense with someone who can actually throw a little bit better, like a Jack Tuttle or Davis Warren, where you dial back the risk, because clearly they're not taking care of the football. Now, of course, Alex Orji, maybe he opened up some opportunities in the run game with his legs and them having to, account for him. So maybe that even opened it up more. And the one thing that I think Michigan State, one of the best hires, or maybe the best hire that Jonathan Smith made, was hiring Joe Rossi, the defensive coordinator from Minnesota, who did a pretty good job there, has done a good job this year. And I think he understands what it takes to beat a team like this, because they just did it last week against Iowa. Stop the run at all costs, right? I mean, Caleb Johnson had 20 yards of rushing before he broke off the 75-yard touchdown late in that game. They contained him throughout the entirety of that game, and they did so by stacking the box. According to Sports Info Solutions, Iowa had 20 rushes for 52 yards into stacked boxes, 7 men in the box or more. 45 of those yards came after contact. That's an elite back making things happen on some plays, maybe even when it's not blocked for the amount of yardage that he ended up getting. Caleb Johnson is incredible. And here's what Caleb Johnson said about the Michigan State defense containing the run game. He said the whole game they brought safeties down. They blitzed with safeties. They blitzed with linebackers. They brought everybody. There's nothing we can really do but just keep giving it our all, putting blocks and just getting one popped. I made the most of that one. They played their butts off, so I give respect to them. I imagine it's the same game plan, right, this weekend, that they're going to stop the run, or at least attempt to. Now, when you bring guys down, you don't have much of a depth to your defense like we saw with Donovan Edwards at Ohio State a couple years ago. You can pop a big run. So that would be Michigan's, certainly huge for Michigan. But they're going to take that away and dare you to throw and dare these receivers to get off the line and get open.
They are, and you need somebody that can throw the ball in that instance. That's why these people calling for Alex Orji. I understand that Jack Tuttle and Davis Warren haven't been very good there either, but Alex Orji is no option there. So I don't think you'll be seeing him start or play a whole lot on Saturday. And I think they understand that now, that Alex Orji is who everybody kind of thought he was. So unfortunately, they don't have a whole lot of better options in the passing game either. So it's one of those years, right, where they're ripe for the picking, and they need a quarterback in the portal and we said that in the spring. They're going to need one next year from the portal. So we'll see what happens next year. But for this game, it's going to be a rock fight, as our Anthony Broom likes to say. I've picked up a lot of these from Anthony over the years. He's been outstanding. But
He's great at idioms.
Yes.
I don't know if that's a compliment or if I should be disturbed by that.
It's a compliment. It's a compliment. And so I just think, it's going to be points are going to be tough to come by. They're going to have to throw the ball a little bit. So we'll see, man. But you got to go with Mullings. When you talk about those yards after contact, Donovan Edwards isn't getting those, fellas. Maybe he breaks through and gets into the secondary, but Kalel Mullings can do that too. And he's the better option to break tackles and go the distance at this point.
I think one of the biggest questions on defense for Michigan State is, can you sell out to stop the run and also stop Colston Loveland at the same time? You look at some of the matchups, on the field. So much of it to me is going to come to winning some of those one-on-ones. And when you have a guy who, it's tough to call him the best tight end in college football because I haven't watched every other tight end, but he's one of the best. He's your best offensive weapon in the passing game. Can you get him, can you get yourself in situations where Colston Loveland can be that safety valve and bail you out in a 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. You look at some of the individual grades, if you go on PFF, for a lot of these Michigan State players that have played a lot, you're seeing a lot of orange, yellow, light green, which is adequate to okay. I think that Joe Rossi's doing a really good job of coaching those guys. But I think, this is a game that comes down to winning your one-on-ones too. A lot of Michigan's wide receivers, it's the fact that you see 5-6 guys a week. I asked Sherrone more this after the first game. Like, we saw a ton of those guys play, and I asked, is that more competition? Is that more you wanted to get guys out there? And he said, oh, it's, it's depth. It's what we're going to do all year. Well, part of it's a byproduct of the fact is that you don't have an alpha in that room, even though we thought Tyler Moore, Samaj Morgan, some of those guys had the chance to be that. So at this point, a big game from those guys would be an outlier, but if they can win some of these one-on-ones, maybe it does give them some momentum in the second half of the year. But it's going to be interesting to see what the plan is. If Michigan State sells out to stop the run, what does that open up for everyone else? And can Michigan convert on that?
No doubt. And, I know it's a different staff, but really the last few years, of course, Michigan State had a terrible pass defense the last few years, but they did stop Michigan's run game. I mean, last year Michigan had to throw and had J.J. McCarthy, and he was unbelievable. And Michigan's tight ends in last year's game in the receiving category outgained Michigan State's entire team because he was getting it to A.J. Barner and Colston Loveland, and Roman Wilson had a big game. But do you have those answers this year? And again, it is a different staff, but it seems to be the style. And coming off the Iowa game, they're not going to do it the same exact way because, as Jonathan Smith said on a couple different categories during his press conference, he said, well, they have good coaches over there. They're like, we can't do the same exact thing, but we made some strides in some key areas last week, and one of them was stopping the run. So we'll see how much success they have, how much Michigan can move the football, how they can take care of it in that matchup. Let's flip it over to the Michigan State offense going against this Michigan defense. And Chris, you mentioned it. This is a quarterback in Aiden Childs who's getting better, who coming into the year, my read on it was he's got a bunch of talent. He's clearly your best option. There are going to be growing pains. This isn't a year where you expect to do a whole lot, although they may make a bowl game for the first time in a few years. And he's going to get better throughout the season, and he's going to be your long-term answer. And it feels like that trajectory is playing out as we go along this season. He's completing 59% of his passes, not a great mark, but can really, hit some incredible throws, some terrible throws as well. He should have had a pick the possession before he then threw a bad pick against Iowa. Of course, like any young quarterback is going to have some of those close calls, even when it's not a turnover, but he has turned the ball over 12 times this year, 9 picks, 3 fumbles. He has 6 touchdowns through the air, 3 of them on the ground, which leads the Michigan State team. And he's got a big play threat at wide receiver in Nick Marsh, who's averaging 18 yards a catch, 3rd in the Big Ten, 433 yards. He missed the Boston College game. So that's only in 6 games, and really probably would have won that game if he was in. So I think the key is get after this quarterback, contain him, and make sure Michigan State doesn't have the success they did last week running the ball, because they haven't been a good run team all season long.
Yeah, we think he's the long-term answer there. You never know with the portal now, right?
True.
Somebody could come along and offer him and Nick Marsh $5 million each as a package deal, and they probably will. It's going to be up to
Sure.
Michigan State to pony up to keep him. So, but he's off to a good start, and I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's probably committed to Jonathan Smith, unless of course Jonathan Smith was looking to get out like Nick Saban did too, or something at some point. But that's another conversation for another day. I think Childs, I like him. I like watching him play. I think that he is dangerous. I think the biggest thing in talking to Sherrone, he said you got to stay in your lanes, right? Your rush lanes. You can get there, and I think Michigan will at times, but then he can sidestep you, make a quick move, and then there's nobody there, and he's going to be either taken off downfield. You've got a secondary that doesn't know whether to come up, whether to stay with their guy, and it is a different challenge here. So it's going to be tough. I think they're going to spread them out a little bit. Michigan's got to stop the run. They got to make him one dimensional, and that includes Childs. They can't let him have success in the run game either. That means guys have to be more disciplined than they've been, guys, in the read option and things like that. Straight runs with Childs if they decide to go that route. I'm expecting a heavy dose of him in the run game against the Wolverines and some things that we haven't seen. So I'm not confident that Michigan is going to do a great job against this Michigan State team. I've seen good defenses, Ohio State and Oregon, for example, really hold them down. But at the same time, what they did against Iowa and is what I think they might have a chance to do against Michigan, minus running the ball. I think Michigan is closer, unfortunately, to Iowa's defense than to an elite defense this year, even though they should be better. So that's why, to me, that's one of the reasons that I'm picking Michigan State to win this game.
Well, it's an Iowa defense too that, regardless of how you feel about how they stack up against Michigan, like historically speaking, a Kirk Ferentz defense is pretty disciplined too. Those guys are assignment sound, and that's something that Michigan's defense has not been this year. And I do worry about this. I mean, worry about the secondary with Will Johnson in there, but if he doesn't play in this game, I could see that being a problem for Michigan. I mean, this is a week I feel like if he can go, they really need him because Aiden Childs, is going to kind of air it out. He's connected on a lot of big plays this year. They kind of, usually when you have a young quarterback, you try to rein him in a little bit and, lean on your run game and get him comfortable throws. No, I mean, Jonathan Smith has thrown him right into the fire. And early on, it looked like a bit much. I know there were some Michigan State fans wanted to see them maybe change quarterbacks, but this is why when you have a promising young guy, when you have any guy that kind of vomits a bunch of turnovers, if you think he can lead your offense, you stick with him, and those can be learning experiences. And last week, obviously, I think the best game he's played to this point. So, I think Wink Martindale probably going to throw the kitchen sink at him. I assume they're going to blitz. They're going to bring a lot of pressure. If he's able to find, exploit that and find guys to spot, sending a couple extra guys, it's probably gonna be a long night for Michigan, especially on third down. I've said it several times this last week or so. Like when a team, when a unit, when a group shows you what they are, I kind of tend to believe them this time of the year, 2 months into the season. So I am concerned about that. Now you look at their offensive line, that's an advantage for Michigan. I think when you have Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant up front and the edge rushers that Michigan has, I think that you should be able to get pressure with 4. And maybe that pressure becomes a little overwhelming if you send an extra guy, an extra 2 guys. But I think that they're going to try and get this ball out quick, get Aiden Childs out of the pocket so he's not contained. And from there, it's going to be incumbent on, the back 7 that I think did play much better against Illinois coming off the bye week. If there's a silver lining at all, it's the fact that I think overall, for the totality of that game, I think it was a much better performance than what we saw at Washington. So a lot to clean up still. I think that, looks like Michigan State has a young quarterback that's kind of starting to figure it out. And he's played in some tough places too this year. I mean, they've played at Boston College. They played a road game at Oregon. I think compared to some of those atmospheres, this version of Michigan Stadium might be a little sleepier than in previous years. So I don't think he's going to be fazed by that at all. So Michigan's got to find a way to knock him off balance.
This offensive line is very vulnerable, but they're going to run a lot of max protection like they have, and including last week, play action, keep the tight ends and running backs in, try to give him time, and it's going to be on the Michigan corners to step up and make plays down the field and be sound in coverage, because Nick Marsh is a big play threat. He's twitchy, he's big, he's strong. That's why Will Johnson playing, which I don't think Will Johnson is going to play. We'll see. But him being in would be massive against them. I saw good things from Amir Hall and Jair Hill last week against Illinois' very good receiving core as well. So that's a positive. Michigan was playing more aggressively with the defensive backs last week compared to against Washington, when they were just leaving a bunch of cushion there and allowing them to convert some big third downs. But when you do that, you better not stumble or slip or fall down or lose a step, because Nick Marsh, who's really their game breaker, could make you pay. The other guys could make you pay because they're solid. Jerron Glover, Montori Foster, sounds like Alante Brown is going to play, but it's really Nick Marsh that I worry about the most. And one receiver can make a big difference. I even remember a couple years ago, Michigan State comes down, I think their first drive, and Keon Coleman just kept mossing Jamon Green and got in the end zone. That was 7 points, but and they didn't have anything else. But this Michigan State team against this Michigan team may have some more juice there the rest of the game. So if a receiver makes a huge play or takes over a drive, that could be a big difference maker. But any other thoughts on this Michigan State offense?
Nope. Just hope that they got to stop the run too. The running backs, I think they had 212 yards rushing, if I'm not mistaken, against Iowa. So it's a big step up for them. They're going to spread them out and try to find some gaps. Tackling's got to be a lot better.
Mm-hmm. And something Jonathan Smith talked about on Monday was how big the run game was for Aiden Childs, because they put him in good situations. It just opens everything else up for them. They went to the play action game. So similar to Michigan, right? It starts there. Then you can get whatever your passing game is going. For Michigan State, they have more in that arsenal. Michigan, a little bit less, but still a dangerous tight end that they might be able to get going, like we saw against Illinois in the play action game. But we shall see. And we'll see if Michigan State can finish drives too. Another key stat, 38.5 is their touchdown percentage in the red zone. That's 131st in the country. They have been brutal down there, but they have an incredible kicker in Jonathan Kim, who has made a 58-yarder, 55-yarder last week. He is 15 of 16 on the season, so he can still put up points, and any points in this game are going to be big. Let's get to our predictions here, but before we do, talk about our great sponsor, Gametime. They're the exclusive ticketing partner of the Wolverine podcast. It's the easiest way to get tickets to the biggest games, concerts, or shows. The app is super easy to use. Just head on there, pick whatever game, concert, or show you want. Check out what the view is going to look like. They got pictures of those. Check out all the different pricing options. It is really, really simple and easy to use. Go to an NFL game. Go to the Michigan State game this weekend. NBA's back up. Dusty May and the Michigan Wolverines basketball team start in less than 2 weeks for the regular season, so you can get tickets to any of those games or concerts or shows over at Gametime. Use the promo code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. That's a promo code ON3, ON, the numeral 3, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. They have the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more. Again, promo code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Let's get into our predictions. We'll start with our offensive player of the game nominees. It's just, there are like two options for this if you're Michigan. Every week, I'm going to take Kalel Mullings, because I think if they have a chance to move the football successfully on whatever percentage of their drives, he's going to be the catalyst.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kalel Mullings, and they need to ride him. And he needs to have 100-plus yards in this game. I think he's got that ability, even if they stack the line.
Make it 3 for 3. The options are limited these days, so
it's fair. Team that's won the rushing battle has won 48 out of the last 54 in this series. People only do that for rivalries, though. They don't look it up for the other. I imagine the team that rushes for more wins about 95% of games, because you're winning and you run the ball later. But I digress. Defensive player of the game, they're going to max protect. They're probably going to double team him like Illinois did after the first drive last week. But Josiah Stewart, I think he can really play well against these Michigan State tackles and get some pressure on Aiden Childs, and he's going to be key, him and the edge rushers, to contain him in the pocket.
I'm going to go with him as well. I like him in this game. I think he plays with a lot of heart. That's what they're going to need to win this football game. these other guys better match him on Saturday. That's all I've got to say.
To go off the board a little bit, I liked how Jayshon Barham played last week, and I think he's going to be key in kind of keeping Aiden Childs in the pocket if they're able to do that. So I'll go with Jayshon Barham.
And if Aiden Childs tries to block like Luke Altmaier did,
God bless him.
Jayshon Barham will try to light you up. My X factor in this game is going to be Amir Hall, fifth-year senior corner. Came on last week, played pretty well with Will Johnson out. They're going to need that whether or not Johnson plays, because I doubt he'd be at 100%. So you're going to have to see him in there. He's got to be steady. They got to avoid allowing big plays.
Yeah, I think I'll go with him too. It makes sense. He was solid last week, and if Will Johnson doesn't play, like you said, he's really going to have to step up. So, but he played well. He's getting better. I'll go with him too.
Go with Jair Hill. Going to probably getting the Nick Marsh assignment most of the night. So we'll see how that goes. Also, keep an eye on Donovan Edwards. When you're in a moment like this where really more than just your season's kind of on the brink, a lot of legacies are sort of on the line with this game. You need your captain to step up and deliver a big moment. And a couple rough moments over the last 2 weeks. I think that Donovan Edwards has a role to play in this game on Saturday.
And Tommy Doman had better.
That'd be huge. That'd be huge. Punt the ball like we've seen you punt it in the past, right? If you're not going to turn it over, the punting game's got to be good and back them up a little bit. Anthony, I love how you pick Jair Hill as the X factor, and then you're like, let me jinx Donovan real quick before we get out of here. So.
You know what?
What's Andrell Anthony doing these days?
I'm just.
You know what? You know what though? If I had the power to jinx or to create any sort of magic or bad juju, I think what's happened this year, it transcends magic or jinxing and all that. So
say that Aiden Childs is going to play incredible. Best game of his career.
Give me a second. We're about to talk game predictions.
Okay.
There we go. Final score predictions for this game. Anthony, just start it off then.
Yeah. Fire your arrows, hurl your tomatoes. I have Michigan State winning this game 24-23. I think, when you look at a matchup like this, tough, it's gonna be tough. It's always tough to win on the road in this conference, as Michigan has found out the last few weeks. But Michigan State brings the better quarterback into this game by virtue of having one, but also the fact that he is trending upward. And let's call it what it is: the better head coach right now. I think that's the combination that's gonna have a lot of people sweating this out and upset on Saturday night. So I hate to be that guy, but up-down theory, that's just where things are trending right now.
And they're playing better as a team. They're playing like they want it more. And I hate to say that, sometimes that's cliche, but if you look at body language and morale, one team's got it, one team does not. And that team that does have it is Michigan State. So I think they're going to come in and have success offensively. I think they're going to stymie Michigan defensively. I would imagine there are going to be a couple turnovers for Michigan quarterbacks, whoever it is. And I like Michigan State 24-17.
I'm going to go Michigan 17, Michigan State 14. I like the home team in kind of a toss-up, neither team's great type of scenario. I also like the team at home with more talent, but it is kind of a coin flip type of game. But
so
avoid turnovers.
You're not guaranteeing it this week?
I never guaranteed anything publicly last week, but I appreciate you calling me.
Hey, if you're going to sit there and talk about how great you are, mister, then you can be damn sure that you're going to be called. Yeah.
I never did. I didn't get the big head.
Okay, if you say so. Yeah.
But, I got Michigan winning this game. They're favored. I have Michigan State covering. I have been wrong before, though, so we shall see.
We've all been wrong.
It's very hard to do. It's very hard.
More often than not.
Yep.
No doubt. Speaking of that, no man knows the future, so that's kind of an out that we haven't. Let's finish up with picking a 3-pack of games here. 2 of them in the Big Ten, 1 of them the biggest game in the SEC. We'll start with Illinois, the team that Michigan just played, and Oregon, the team that Michigan will play next week. Illinois at Oregon. Oregon 21.5-point favorite, over under 54.5. This game 3:30 on CBS. I guess Oregon. I don't know what. I think Michigan showed that you can really stop that Illinois defense or offense, and so did Penn State. I think Oregon will do similar and then just kind of pull away.
Yeah, I think Oregon stomps them. It's funny riding down the elevator with some Illinois fans, and one guy says, we're probably not gonna win at Oregon." And some guy, "Why not? We played well better at Penn State. That's a tougher place to play." And I'm like, "Buddy, just you know what? They're of course these are the same people rushing the field after beating a crappy Michigan team." So not the brightest fan base. I think Oregon stomps them. I think they cover easily.
They didn't score at Penn State besides a touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, okay, what am I going to say? Michigan in the elevator. I'm there with a bunch of Illinois fans. They hate Michigan. That's for sure.
I'll go with Oregon.
3 for 3. That means Illinois will be covering this
Absolutely.
game. Penn State at Wisconsin's the next one. Penn State, speaking of them, is a 6.5-point favorite. Over under 47.5. This game 7:30 Eastern on NBC. I think I'm going Wisconsin. They're playing better. Camp Randall, give me the 6.5 points.
I agree. I think it'll be a tight game. I think this is one that Frames can choke away. Should have lost to USC if we're being honest, and that's not a very good USC team. But going out to the coast, it's an accomplishment if you went out there. But I think Wisconsin might even win this game the way they're playing right now.
Did you pick Penn State and then say Wisconsin might win this game? Oh,
I picked Wisconsin against the spread, and then I think I said Wisconsin might win this one. Yeah, outright.
I gotcha. I'm gonna go with Penn State. I still don't trust Luke Fickell and this Wisconsin program. So,
not a laughing matter, but James Franklin's press conference today or yesterday, whatever it was very, very
embarrassing.
Interesting. Yeah.
What did he say?
He's asked about a controversy that I feel like shouldn't bring up.
Let's talk about it. We should bring it out in the open.
He just walked away from the podium and had his SID read a statement from the university, and then cowered away from questions.
Is our Megan Gunther, is our producer prepared for this? Does she have something up there that we can put out there and we can talk about this? I don't think so. No. All right. I guess I'm gonna have to go.
I got a quiche in the oven. Let's keep this going.
Yeah. Okay. There you
go. Last game, LSU at Texas A&M. Texas A&M is also playing a lot better lately. 2.5-point favorite. Over-unders 53.5, 7:30 on ABC. Night slate along with the Michigan State game. I got A&M. They are playing a lot better, and this could be a playoff team, and I don't trust Brian Kelly quite yet.
Yeah, especially in that environment. I like A&M to win at home and cover.
Give me A&M.
There you have it. Those are our picks. We got our predictions in there for Michigan State. We'll see some of you on Saturday at the Big House. Come say hi. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Make sure to head to thewolverine.com. Use the promo code UM1. That's UM and the numeral 1 for 2 months of premium access for just $1. And we will see everybody next time.